Hi folks, you're with Taskless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the citizenship tests to become a citizen in a Western country. Now, these tests years ago, we had some overseas workers coming in who wanted citizenship, but they were from places like Britain and the United States, Canada. This is a place where I worked, and the tests were, I wouldn't call them super rigorous, but they were rigorous. Someone that couldn't speak English decently would really struggle to get through it. And it took to memorizing various things such as the law and so on, how it operated in Australia. And again, not super rigorous, but if you didn't come from a Western sort of background and you didn't speak English passably well, then you would really struggle with it. Now, all that's changed. Now, what it meant was there was a value on citizenship. You had to make a commitment. You had to make an effort to learn English, learn some of the history, and you had to show some sort of desire or interest in becoming a citizen. And that was reflected, I think, to not fully perhaps, but to a large extent in the citizenship test. So you've lived in Australia for the requisite amount of time, you meet the criteria, the basic criteria, in terms of age and these sorts of things, and then you take the citizenship test to become a citizen. Now that's all changed. The test today is it's I think 20 questions, and you only have to get 15 right. And the bar has been lowered in the sort of questions that are asked. And it's hard to believe that questions like that would even appear in a citizenship test, which has the lowest of the lowest levels of rigor applied to it. The assumption is almost that anyone that takes a test won't speak English and won't understand anything about Western civilization, which is hardly a good start to give someone not only a residency permit but a citizenship. So let's have a look at that. One of the questions is, what is the capital city of Australia? And what is the national language of Australia? This is the type of questions that, one of Australia's most iconic national holidays, commemoration type holiday, in the same sort of vein as, say, Thanksgiving is in the United States. That sort of stature or that sort of importance. So really, that's the level of questions. Now, you'd be hard pushed to flunk a test like that. You would think, given how it's got close to zero rigor attached to it. Even so, a third of the people taking the citizenship test to become citizen, 1/3, 1 in 3, flunk it. Now you go, well, that's impossible, a test that easy. Well, no, it's not. It's not when you have illiterate peasants from the third world coming along who've got various handlers and agitator groups and NGOs representing that are very well cashed up, and coach them on say this, say that. Now, these, by the way, are multiple choice questions, so you don't have to write in an answer. So you get something crazy like, is the President of the United States the President of the United States, or is the President of the United States President of the local zoology society, is the President of the local junior school student council? You get questions that are so obvious as to what the answer is that you think nobody could flunk this, but there you go, 1/3 flunk it. Now let's go back to the days when the primary migration was from English-speaking people from the United Kingdom, for example. Then the failure rates of a much more rigorous citizenship test back then was close to zero. And those were people like, again, you'd say rural peasantry, people that had lived in the rural areas of, I don't know, Scotland or Ireland and hadn't really attended school, those types of things. But I had dyslexia. But, and that was quite a rigorous test. Now, even if you passed the test or managed to scrape through, the immigration authority still had the right to say, well, you have to recite the Lord's Prayer in English or something like that. So they could do that, which meant that they could still weed out people, if you like, that weren't really serious about becoming citizens or committing to the society they wanted to become a citizen of. Now, this is quite different today. The sort of people that are coming to the West with massive help and funding through the globalist infrastructure of mass moving surplus populations into the West. So, there's a massive logistical machine doing that, all very well funded by the globalists. So it's a different sort of person that's coming. Today, they're not only literate peasants, but they're freeloaders. They're really passengers in a game of mass people movement, which they're almost unwitting participants in. But they're being moved in, and they're freeloaders. They just want the free stuff. We never fuck about your society or your values or your Christian beliefs or your laws or anything. You can shove those up your ass. We want the handouts, and we're entitled to it. We're oppressed people. We're minorities, and we're entitled to that. You damn fucking Nazi fucking motherfuckers. So hand it all over. So this is the sort of person that's coming. So not every single one of them, but when you get 1 in 3 flunking the easiest test in the world, then they're obviously a different sort of person arriving, particularly when Western people in a much more rigorous test are passing 99% of the time. Now, this is just having a look at citizenship tests around the world, whether it's Britain or Australia or New Zealand, Canada. The tests have been made easier again. The bar has been lowered. It's affirmative action on steroids, really, the whole thing. The bar has been lowered to the point where nobody can fail, or pretty much nobody, or they thought nobody. But because 1 in 3 are failing this easy multiple choice test, the government, the globalist, very pro-globalist Australian government at the moment, they want to make the test even easier again, and allow people to take the test in a foreign language. I mean, fuck. Now, if you read the citizenship test comes with some attached blurb, which gives some basic information about the country and its founding, these sorts of things. It's become the drift to the globalist activist, social justice left has continued. Every time I look at one of these documents, it's gone further and further to the left, and takes more and more time to denounce white people. Say, well, it's a white society, but you don't really have to comply with it. Yeah. I mean, you kind of, if you really want to. And even English is treated as it'll help you, do better in your new country. But hey, it's up to you. It's you don't want to learn English. We're not going to force you. So there's even, I wouldn't call it anti-Australian or anti-white propaganda in the citizenship blurb. Or the attached information. Some of the information is sort of reasonably useful, I guess, but for the most part, it's saying, well, if you don't speak English and you've got different values, hey, that doesn't matter. You can still be a citizen, and we don't care, which is a terrible surrender of your values. Now, the citizenship of any country should mean something. It should have value. It should mean that you're loyal to and committed to that nation, and you want to become a citizen, become part of that society as it is. Not that you want to change it to become a society of black lesbians, but you want it to, you wanting to join that society and participate and become a member of it as it is, and leave a society that you wanted to flee from. But that's not the case. These are economic migrants, and hey, we're just here for the free stuff. So you can go. If you want to give your citizenship away easily, fine. But if you don't, we don't give a fuck. And that's very much, as I see it, at least the attitude. But all the countries that are targets of mass migration that the globalists are moving those surplus populations into, All these tests have been made, citizenship tests, been made very easy. Now let's look at countries that want to preserve their culture and preserve their society and how it functions and the way it functions. We can look at Japan or China or Korea, places like that. The tests are much more difficult. If you don't speak decent, competent Japanese, forget it. If you can't do things in for China, if you can't do things in Mandarin, forget it. And most countries, even countries that nobody wants to fucking go to, like, I don't know, Nigeria or Congo, it's not easy to become a citizen. Not only do you have to spend a lot of time there, but you have to be able to jump through some fairly significant hurdles to become a citizen. In some of these places, unless you're born there, you can't become a citizen, even if you marry a citizen. So citizenship in the countries that people most want to go to and where the globalists are most active and aggressive in moving surplus population, surplus peasant populations of the world into, for some reason, the citizenship tests have become very, very easy. Piss easy. And that can be no accident that the target countries that the globalists are getting into happen to have super easy citizenship tests, where any country that the globalists aren't tampering with has quite a high bar, or on a relative basis, a much higher bar for citizenship, or to achieve or gain citizenship. Now, I believe citizenship should have value. You must want to become a citizen. And if that means you make sacrifice, if that means you go to night school to learn English, then that's what you do. That's the sort of commitment you make. I want to become a citizen. I don't speak English. That country's English. I don't understand the rule of law. I don't understand independent courts. I don't understand this, but I want to learn. I want to become a citizen in that country. The reason that country is not at war, the reason I can walk down the streets without getting shot, the reason there's not warring tribes and factions running around shooting each other, the reason that there are courts and this and that, and that the economy functions, the reason that, that's the reason why I want to be here. That is a better setup than I previously, that I had, and I want to become a citizen in this. But just to come as a freeloader, that's no commitment. To pretend you're fleeing persecution when you're not, then that's simply not a commitment to citizenship. So I think citizenship should have value, and I think it should be a relatively high bar. Now, the social justice activists say, well, look, if we put a high bar on citizenship, that means it's much easier for white English-speaking people to become citizens, and it's much harder for non-English speaking people, the brown and the black people that the globalists want to move around. It's much harder for them to become citizens because they don't speak English. They're peasants. They're illiterate in their own language. So why do we have to make it hard for them and easy for the white people who speak English? That's not the point. That's not the fucking point. They've turned this into a victim oppressor discussion, which it's not. If you're making a choice to leave a country where you don't speak English, where the national language is not English, where there's either poverty or warfare or these sorts of things, and you're making a choice to come to a better country, a better place, and then you make those commitments and you make those sacrifices to meet the standard in your new and chosen country. Now, if you think, well, gee, I don't want to have to jump through any hoops, I don't want to, well, then don't come, for fuck's sake. Another thing that's crept into the citizenship thing is it's acceptable for people. It's now refugees to flee poverty, or if they can't get a PhD level education in the country, then they're able to flee that country. I couldn't get a PhD in rocket science, so I'm a victim and I'm going to flee that place and I'm going to come to a first world country. I mean, what a load of fucking bullshit. So these things are now in the citizenship blurb, that the human right of an education or human right to flee poverty and all this sort of stuff means that you've got some sort of right to come to a first world country and claim citizenship. So clearly the whole thing's been corrupted and bastardized and torn to pieces, in my view, by the activists, and funded and helped along and cheered along by the globalist cabal. But it just goes to show how citizenship is meaningless. Now, I've seen interviews by people on the street from saying, what does it mean to be a British citizen or Australian citizen? This is brown and black peasants from the third world. Well, it doesn't mean anything. It means a whole lot of free stuff, and I can come and go whenever the fuck I please. That's what it means. And so they don't see themselves as part of the society at all, far from it. So, and in Australia, you've got entire suburbs of devout Hindus, and other than what they can take from the white Australians, they've got no interest in participating or becoming part of society. They're a Hindu enclave in Australia, and they're happy to keep it that way. So very few people from the third world want to become citizens either now or in the future, and they're 5 or 6 generations down the track, and they still don't see themselves as citizens. Now, this is very different from people who come from the white Anglo-Saxon Christian countries. Within a single generation, they're Australian, and they are blending in, and they are wanting to contribute to and become part of the society. So this is where we're at now. And in order to make it easy for these illiterate third world peasants who can't be bothered to speak a fucking lick of English, just to make it easy for them, the globalist controlled Australian government is lowering the bar so that any illiterate third world peasant who hasn't bothered to make any commitment to Australia at all can become a citizen. It's a crying shame. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.